When we finally opened the doors to our cafe, for a minute he was completely silent, but suddenly he burst into tears and kissed my hands. This is food from the heavens, fit for kings. When Grandma took the first bite, she looked like she was having a heart attack. What? How? When did you learn to bake like that? I've never had something so amazing in my entire life. I'm telling you, this girl is doing witchcraft. It wasn't just any ordinary morning. The birds were chirping, the sun was shining. I had turned 16 yesterday, and last night, my first love, Ryan, had finally kissed me. Life was perfect. Well, at least for 5 minutes. Because as soon as I stepped out of my room, Mom rushed to me, crying like a baby. "What's wrong, Mom?" She told me that Aunt Melissa, her best friend, was moving away because her husband got a job transfer. What? Just when we had saved up enough to start our own cafe! As sorry as I was for Mom, I had bigger problems. You see, Aunt Mel was Ryan's mom. I rushed out of the house. I had to see Ryan. He was playing video games when I entered his room, looking completely unbothered. "What's wrong, babe? Why are you crying?" "Because you're going! Please don't!" Ryan put down the game and took my hands in his. "I don't really have a choice, babe. But you and I are soulmates. We'll make long distance work." After a few days, Ryan stopped calling or replying to my messages. He said too much screen time wasn't good for either of us, but there he was uploading pictures on Facebook with a new girl every day. And that's how I had my first heartbreak. Hi, I'm Carrie, and this is the story of how I transformed my life and had boys drooling over me at the same time after my childhood crush left me high and dry. Please click on subscribe and I'll continue my story. Thanks. I'd been moping around long enough over Ryan. I decided I needed a change, and Mom agreed to send me to visit my grandmother in Provence, France. I was glad I was going there. Maybe I'd meet some nice guy. I deserved to meet someone great and move on from that jerk Ryan. Wow, Ryan had nothing on the cute French boys here. My heart was about to be healed very soon. The moment I arrived, I could see this group of boys looking at me. One of them walked up to me and said, "Hey, gorgeous, what's it like looking at the man of your dreams?" Okay, this is going to be easier than I thought. It was Grandma's 60th birthday, and I decided to bake her a cake. How hard could it be? I'd seen Mom do it a million times. The whole neighborhood had gathered on her birthday. When Grandma took the first bite, she looked like she was having a heart attack. Was it that bad? Finally, she managed to say, "What? How? When did you learn to bake like that? I've never had something so amazing in my entire life." She hugged me so hard I could hardly breathe, and the whole neighborhood went gaga over the cake. A fight nearly broke out with people trying to get another piece. I spent the rest of the summer baking like my life depended on it, because there was always a crowd of people outside Grandma's house waiting to try my stuff. Grandma's crazy old neighbor would come over every day to have my desserts, while she'd glare at me and grumble, "I'm telling you, this girl is doing witchcraft." The minute I landed back home, I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I convinced Mom to take a loan to make up for Aunt Mel's share and start her dream cafe with me. When we finally opened the doors to our cafe, both of us held our breath as our very first customer took a bite of the chocolate eclair. For a minute, he was completely silent. Oh no. He hated it, but suddenly he burst into tears and kissed my hands. "This is food from the heavens, fit for kings." Turns out he was a famous food critic. After his review, word of our quaint French cafe spread like wildfire. People were lining up to the end of the street to try my desserts. But soon enough, I realized they kept coming back for me too. Boys would hang out around the cafe for hours just to catch a glimpse of me. "How are you so perfect? You've got the face of an angel and the hands of one too." By the end of the month, Time magazine had me and my creations on the front cover with the title Beauty and Her Feast. And Cosmopolitan said that at Sweet 16, I was all the sweetness people needed in their lives. My Instagram followers shot up, and my mailbox was getting flooded with love letters. One day, as I was unloading flour sacks out of the van, I saw a group of school kids come around the corner. Among them was the school heartthrob, Sean. As our eyes met, he smiled at me. I turned away when I saw one of the girls with him glaring at me with crazy jealous eyes. I knew she was his ex. Didn't need any of that drama. 5 seconds later, as they came closer, she accidentally pushed me. "Watch out!" Sean jumped forward to catch the sack, and before we knew it, we were both on the ground, covered in flour from head to toe and looking like ghosts. We glanced at each other and burst out laughing. I told him he could come inside to clean up, and he asked his friends to go on without him. His ex looked like her head was gonna explode. Once he'd cleaned up, I made him some creme brulee. He nearly fell off the chair after the first mouthful. Wow, I could eat this every day for the rest of my life. This is even better than I thought it would be. You're thinking about my food? Well, not just about the food. Suddenly he leaned forward, and I thought he was going to kiss me, but he said I'd missed a spot and brushed some flour off my nose. My heartbeat went wild. Just then, Mom came into the kitchen and glared at us as I introduced Sean. Of course she wasn't happy. She'd always wanted me to be with Ryan. By the end of the month, Sean and I started dating, after he showed up at the cafe to serenade me. Ryan was just an old heartbreak now, and so yesterday. Meanwhile, Sean was fun and caring and very much in love with me. Life was pretty much perfect. Little did I know, I had spoken too soon. As soon as I entered school the next day, there was quite a commotion. Apparently a new guy was on the basketball court giving Sean a run for his money. It really was a tough match that ended in a draw. But just then, I caught a glimpse of the new boy, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Ryan! It had been over a year since I'd last heard from him. Why had he come back? Sean saw me and came running over. He's really good, isn't he? We'll be a much stronger team with him around. Before I could say anything, Ryan jumped to hug me. Carrie, I missed you! And instantly I pulled away from him. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong person. I walked away as fast as I could. I needed time to process this. I took a sick leave and went home early. I went running to Mom's room and stopped in my tracks when I saw Aunt Mel sitting with her. She pulled me in for a hug. Did you see Ryan in school? He wanted to surprise you. Surprise me he did. I was just telling Aunt Mel how much you missed Ryan. I did not. Aunt Mel acted like she hadn't even heard me. It's a good thing we're back then. Then she said that she and Mom would finally be able to run their dream cafe together. Wait, what? Thanks for helping out when I wasn't around, kiddo. But it's my cafe. It's famous because of me. But I'm sure you have your hands full with school, sweetheart. Don't worry, Aunt Mel is here now. I was so annoyed. Later that day, Sean dropped by to see me. We were sitting on the porch when a car came into my driveway. I didn't need to look twice to see who it was. Ryan walked up to us, completely ignoring Sean. Babe, I've been looking for you everywhere. I felt Sean get tense as he put his arm around me. How do you know each other again? Oh, we go way back. We have a shared past. Yeah, and that's where I'd like to leave you too, in the past. I told Sean I'd call him later and went inside. Ryan immediately followed, the little leech. The minute he saw Mom, though, he practically pushed me aside and went screaming to hug her tight. Oh, you're even handsomer than before, and have you grown taller? Stupid vain boy. He started making crepes along with Mom, and watching him in our kitchen just made me feel angrier. Thinking about me? You wish. I'm not going to forgive you just because you're making me crepes once. Then I'll keep making them till you do. But don't eat too many. We don't want you getting fat. And he finally left. My mom couldn't stop talking about how wonderful it would be if the two of us got together. Mom, I'm with Sean now. Well, yes, but you can break up with him. Both Mel and I would be thrilled. I stormed off to my room. Why did Mom keep forgetting Ryan was a jerk who broke my heart? Come to think of it, Aunt Mel was a bit of a jerk too, and a bossy one at that. She wanted to change everything about the cafe. One day I came home from school to find her painting the beautiful lavender walls an ugly shade of pink. She kept picking faults with the menu, but she still always wanted to know more about my recipes. One afternoon, I came to the cafe and was horrified to see that she had changed the signboard outside. Now her name was on it too. She had even managed to convince Mom to open another bank account. Without me. Another day, I walked into the kitchen to hear her saying to Mom, I saw that you recently had a couple of bad reviews online. That's what happens when you let a child do everything. I hated her poking her nose in my business, but that's not all I had to worry about. One Saturday, when I went to open up the cafe with Mom, we stopped short in horror. All across the window, someone had painted, "Take your stupid desserts and leave our town." Just then, Aunt Mel turned up behind us, staring at the view in shock, and then she burst into tears. Who would do such a horrible thing to me? I bet it's that old witch down the street who keeps complaining our customers are too noisy. While Mom consoled her, I tried not to imagine what it would be like to punch her, and I couldn't help wondering who would do such a thing to my cafe. As if all this wasn't annoying enough, Ryan had begun to constantly hover around me. He started following me around in school, not leaving me alone with Sean for a second. I was sitting with Sean one day and having French fries when he popped up out of nowhere and took away my plate. You shouldn't be eating fried food. Sean, how could you let her? I'm not her dad, and neither are you. Before I could even say anything, he threw the fries in the garbage and put a salad in front of me. And why aren't you wearing sunscreen? Your skin looks spotty. After school, he was always over at the cafe, telling everyone he worked there as a waiter. And later, he'd turn up at my place in the evening, sticking to me like glue while Mom and I were watching TV. One evening when Mom was out, I called Sean over to a romantic dinner for two. Just as he was leaning over the table to kiss me, and I closed my eyes, I felt a hand pushing my face away. My eyes flew open, and I nearly fell back to see it was Ryan. Isn't it kind of gross to kiss without having some breath mints first? Man, are you crazy? Yes, crazy in love. Ryan, I've just had it. Get out. Okay, just let me take my phone from under the table. Sean literally had to stop me from throwing a plate at Ryan as he ran out. I was trying to keep my cool, but he was really crossing a line and then some. One night, I woke up to the sound of something being dragged across the room. I sat up in bed and let out a loud scream. Who's there? And then I saw a shadow move and a voice called in the darkness. Hello, Carrie. I nearly had a heart attack. Ryan! He was sitting in a chair staring at me like a creep. He had a box in his hands. What are you doing in my room? I came to give you this. I know it's that time of the month for you and you need some extra love. What the? How do you know? Oh, I just installed the same period app that you use and asked your mom about your last date. Now, use the heating pad and herbal tea and don't eat all the chocolates. Mom! She came rushing in and I told her what Ryan was doing, but she didn't see any problem with it. He just really cares about you, honey. A few days later, Ryan was being his nosy self and helping me serve at the cafe. This old woman smiled and turned to me. He will make an excellent husband. Oh, no. We aren't together. Of course we are. She's just shy and slightly angry with me at the moment. To be young and in love. Seems like it was all the encouragement Ryan needed. He put his arm around my shoulder, and before I knew it, he pulled me in for a kiss. Get your paws off me! Sean came in just then, looking furious. He punched Ryan and knocked him to the floor. Everyone stared in shocked silence. Ryan glared at us, brushed himself off, and walked out of the cafe without a word. Ryan wasn't talking to me anymore, and I wasn't complaining. Mom and Aunt Mel were both really cold to me, though, but we all had more troubling stuff to deal with right now. Someone had complained that our kitchens were filthy and had rats running around. The Food Inspection Authority came to check to find our kitchens spotless, of course. I was furious. Even though these rumors were false, they weren't good for business. A few days later, Sean came to me, literally jumping with excitement. Babe, I've got brilliant news for you. My dad's cousin is a huge rock singer and he's getting married and he wants you to cater. There will be so many famous people there. I was thrilled. This was the biggest order I'd ever gotten, and it could really make or break me. The three of us spent weeks preparing everything. I was almost glad for Aunt Mel right now. We needed all the help we could get. The entire neighborhood was excited about their local bakery catering for a celebrity wedding. On the day of the wedding, we got to the venue and unloaded the tiered cake onto the trolley. Suddenly, a wheel slipped out, the trolley tilted, and the cake went sliding away. Sean flew towards it and somehow managed to save it just before it hit the ground. Aunt Mel shrieked, "Oh dear God, I feel faint. Someone give me my smelling salts." It's okay, we're okay. I have extra frosting, we can fix it. We carried off the cake to the kitchen and I fixed up the smudged parts in no time. I let out a sigh of relief as Sean and Ryan carried out the cake to the garden. Just then, I noticed some frosting on my hand and I licked it. What? Why did it taste so disgusting and salty? I stared at the scene in front of me in horror. The bride and groom were cutting the cake. OMG, I couldn't let anyone eat this. No! I ran towards the table like a maniac, and just when I was close, I tripped over my own shoelaces. I practically flew and landed straight into the cake, and half of it went flying onto the bride's dress. She screamed in fury while the groom hopped around because some had landed in his eye. He stepped over the bride's dress, and we all heard a loud rip. I looked up from the cake, wishing I could just disappear magically. The bride was wailing loudly while everyone stared at me in horror. I don't remember how we made it back to the cafe. We all sat around in stunned silence. I finally spoke up. Only one way to find out who tampered with the cake. I had a secret camera installed here last month, just to keep a check on things. We waited breathlessly around the TV, looking at the footage, and sure enough, We saw 2 people sneak into the kitchen 2 nights ago with a bag of salt. And those 2 people were Ryan and Mel. We looked around to see the 2 sprinting away, but the 3 of us were right behind them and tackled them to the ground. Mom stared at Mel in shock. I can't believe you would do something like this to your own friend. Were you behind everything else that's been happening too? Aunt Mel looked like a crazy person. The cafe was my idea. All this praise and money should be mine, and this idiot child took away everything. Now that your reputation is down the gutter, you'll both get what you deserve. I looked at Ryan, and he just shrugged. If you'd shown me the appreciation I deserved, I might have stopped her. I was absolutely furious now. You! But before I could continue, Sean was already holding him by the collar of his shirt. If you love your face, leave and don't come back. As the 2 scurried away, we just stood there silently for a moment. Then Mom pulled me in and hugged me tight. I'm so sorry for trusting her blindly. We will fix this. Just you and me. Suddenly, she pulled in Sean as well. And you too. Turns out the crazy wedding video went viral. And while I thought that would be a really bad thing, it just ended up making our cafe more popular. We had more people coming around than ever. Last I heard of Mel and Ryan, they left town before word of what they'd done spread around. I still always check under the table every time I'm on a date with Sean, though.